All right, still working on lesson 26 on the characterization of parallel lines. Basically, what does it mean when we graph a system of equations and they don't intersect? That they're parallel, okay? So what that means is when we have parallel lines right here, write a system of equations that has no solution, that means the lines need to be parallel. And how do we know when the lines are parallel? Well, the lines are going to be parallel when they have the same slope. And that's what we were doing in the first video on those graphs, right? They both have the same slope, but they also needed to have different y-intercepts. And the reason they have to have different y-intercepts, whoo, I'm struggling here, is because if they have the same y-intercept, then the lines would like lie right on top of each other. And we want them to be parallel, but not touching. So same slope, different y-intercepts means that we have parallel lines, which means no solution. So when it says write a system of equations, don't stress about it. Write two equations that have the same slope. Y equals 1/2 x. Y equals 1/2 x. And then just put different y-intercepts in. +4 minus 3. I don't know. Okay? As long as these two things are the same though, remember the slopes? They're going to be parallel and different y-intercepts. Okay, so don't overthink this stuff. The same is true for the next question. It says write a system of equations that has the point 2, 1 as a solution, that has an x value of 2 and a y, let me try that again, that has an x value of 2 and a y value of 1. All right, well, how do I write this? And like a lot of people will think really hard and try to figure it out. Don't. Let me give you a hint. Write it in standard form and start with 2 and 1. Here's what I mean. Okay, 2, 1, x, y, right? So what if I go 4 times 2 and I add that to, I don't know, 8 times 1? Well, 4 times 2, where did the 4 and 8 come from? Made it up. Okay, you can use any number. I'll do that in a second. 4 times 2 is 8. 8 times 1 is 8. 8 plus 8 is 16. Okay, so I can rewrite this as 4 times x plus 8 times y equals 16. Okay, I can also do the same thing, but just pick different numbers up front, right? What if I did 3 times 2 plus, I don't know, 4 times 1? Well, 3 times 2 is 6, 4 times 1 is 4, so 6 plus 4 is 10. So again, this can be 3x plus 4y equals 10, and there is my system. Okay, I can get rid of this and this if I wanted to. Okay, and I hope I didn't make that more confusing, but what I wanted you to do is just start out with your answer. Pick some numbers to multiply by so you get these equal to, right? And that's your solution. I'm sorry, that's your system. 4x plus 8y equals 16. 3x plus 4y equals 10. How did I get that? Well, I started with 2 and 1, and then I just multiplied them each by something. Okay? Again, don't overthink it. Okay, start with the answer. If you know what the solution is, start with the answer. All right, so it says, how can you tell if a system of equations has a solution or not? Okay? This is really, really important, and we're going to spend more time on this because it's going to prevent you from doing a lot of extra work. If you can look at this and say, hey, they're parallel lines, same slope, then we're going to know if it has no solution or a little bit later on, infinitely many solutions. So, no solution. Okay, and we're not looking at the graphs right now. We're just looking at the system, this thing. If it has no solution, we have the same slope, but different y-intercepts. And you're going to see why that's important later. So same slope, sorry, so sloppy, different y-intercepts. If it has a solution, they have different slopes. Okay, as soon as you see different slopes, there's going to be a solution. Okay, so like I said, that's going to help us. You're going to go through all the work of solving when you don't have to. You can look at it and know something. So if they have different slopes, yep, go solve it. There's a solution. But if they have the same slopes and different y-intercepts, you know there's going to be no solution. Can save you some work. All right. I think the last one we have to do here, you're going to pay very close attention to because you're probably going to see something like this on your homework. They want to know, does it have a solution? Okay, cool. We got to know if they have different slopes or the same slopes. And it's not in y-intercept form. So what I want you guys to do is practice taking these and solving for y. Okay? So let's practice it. Instead of saying 6x minus 2y, I'm going to say 6x plus a negative 2y because I like to deal with addition equals 5. All right? Solve for y. Solve for slope-intercept form because if it's in slope-intercept form, I know what the slope is. So I want to solve for y. So I need to get rid of the 6x. It's a positive 6x, so I'm going to combine it with a negative 6x. Whatever I do to one side of the equal sign, I do to the other. Remember all these skills you were been practicing for years? It's coming into play now. 6x minus 6x is 0. That cancels out. I'm left with negative 2y. That's why I like to write it as a negative, so don't lose that minus sign there. And I'm just going to write this as 5 plus a negative 6x. Okay? Steps are the same. Okay, so if you struggle with this before, you're getting more practice at it. This is negative 2 times y. We undo multiplying by dividing. Now, when we divide like this, remember we divide by a negative because a negative divided by a negative is a positive 1y. I have to divide everything by that negative 2. Everything over here. Don't stress that this is a negative 5 over 2. Leave it as negative 5 over 2. Leave it as negative 2.5. Don't care because remember, what we're interested in is the slope. Negative 6 divided by negative 2, that's a positive 3. So my slope for this equation is 3. Now, let's do the same thing with this equation over here and see what we get for the slope. So I'm going to say 4x plus a negative 3y equals 5. Solve for y because it's in slope-intercept form, or close to it, right? We could change the order, but that doesn't matter. So I'm going to solve for y. I'm going to get rid of the 4x by combining it with the negative 4x. Whatever I do to one side of the equal sign, I do to the other. You guys have heard me say this over and over and over again. That cancels out. Bring down your negative 3y. Excuse me. We have 5 plus a negative 4x. Almost there. I want y. I have negative 3y. I undo multiplying by dividing. So I'm going to divide everything by negative 3. Negative 3 divided by negative 3 is a positive 1y. Again, don't care. Negative 5 over negative 3. Leave it alone. Negative divided by negative is positive. 4 divided by 3 gets a repeating decimal. So I'm just going to leave it as 4/3 times x. But it's positive because a negative divided by a negative is positive. Do they have a solution? Yes. Why? Different slopes. Now, did it ask you to solve it? Did it say, hey, what is a solution? No. It said, does this system have a solution? And the answer is, yes, it does. The explanation? Different slopes. Okay, so right now what we're focusing on is finding the slopes, deciding, hey, is it the same slope? If it's the same slope in different y-intercepts, then we know they're parallel and there's no solution. But if we get different slopes, then we know there is a solution to the system.